Have you ever had one of those moments, where a coincidence is just so weird
Mm-hmm.
that it feels like almost like it was meant to be? Or maybe you've had a dream
Yeah.
that just stuck with you so strongly
Right.
that it kind of changed how you look at things in the real world.
I know exactly what you mean.
Well, today, we're diving into some pretty wild
Oh,
stuff
I love wild stuff.
that kind of plays with those experiences, those ideas.
Sounds fun.
You brought us Ursula K. Guin's The Lathe of Heaven,
Okay.
and along with that, excerpts from the Law of One series.
Interesting combination.
Yeah. Specifically, books I through V.
Wow, covering a lot of ground there.
And I know what you're thinking, how do those two even go together?
Yeah, a sci-fi novel about dreams that change reality
Right?
and a series of channeled messages about cosmic consciousness.
It's a pretty unique pairing, for sure.
Definitely unique.
But that's what we do here, right?
I love it.
We take these seemingly different ideas,
Mm-hmm.
put them together,
Yeah.
see what happens, and see what sparks fly, right?
Exactly. Sparks might fly.
Love it.
So our mission, if you want to call it that, is to explore what happens when we put these two things side by side.
Makes sense.
Lathe of Heaven and Law of One.
All right, let's do it.
See if there are any surprising connections or maybe even some stark contrasts
Oh, I bet there will be.
in how they both approach the power of the mind,
Mm-hmm.
the nature of reality itself,
Few questions.
and, those influences that might be shaping our world,
Right, the seen and the unseen.
whether we're aware of them or not.
Absolutely.
So what I find so fascinating right off the bat
Okay.
is that both Le Guin and the Law of One, in their own way,
Yeah.
make you question what you think is real.
Interesting.
The Lathe of Heaven throws you right into this world
Okay.
where reality is basically like clay. It's
Oh.
shaped by this one guy's subconscious.
Whoa, that's intense.
Whereas the Law of One gives you this much bigger picture,
Right.
like this cosmic framework, right?
Suggesting that our thoughts and awareness are actually these powerful forces
Oh, I see.
that affect how we experience reality.
Within a much larger structure, right?
Within a much larger structure, yeah.
Fascinating.
So let's jump right into Lathe of Heaven.
All right.
Meet our main character, George Orr.
Okay, tell me about George.
This guy is not your average Joe.
What makes him so special?
He's got this, well,
Yeah.
it's almost like a superpower, but not really.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He has what are called effective dreams.
Effective dreams. What are those? And these aren't just dreams that happen in his head.
Uh-huh.
They actually change reality.
Whoa, hold on. So his dreams actually affect the real world?
Exactly. It's like the book starts with this crazy scene.
Okay.
He dreams his Aunt Ethel dies in a car crash in LA.
Oh, wow.
And then he wakes up and poof, she's just gone.
Gone. Like vanished.
Yeah, completely gone.
No trace.
No trace, like she never existed.
That's pretty wild.
Ah.
I know, right? And it's such a powerful way to show you the kind of power this guy has, even though he doesn't even know it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how that would even feel.
Right. Like, can you imagine waking up and someone you knew was just erased?
I can't even wrap my head around it.
It really messes with your idea of what memory is, what our experience even means.
Absolutely.
And Le Guin uses this whole idea to explore how fragile our reality might be, how much it could change.
Yeah, like if one person's dreams can rewrite reality, what does that say about all of us?
Exactly. And the thing is,
Yeah.
Orr isn't doing this on purpose. It's all coming from his subconscious,
So he doesn't even have control over it.
which makes it even scarier.
Right, because it shows you just how much power our minds have.
Huge power, maybe more than we even realize.
Untapped potential, maybe even danger.
Yeah. And naturally, Orr is terrified of this whole thing.
I can imagine.
He tries to stop these dreams with drugs.
Oh, wow.
And that's actually how he ends up meeting this psychiatrist,
Okay.
Dr. William Haber.
Dr. Haber, what's his deal?
So Haber, he doesn't see Orr as just a patient.
Uh-huh.
He sees him as a tool.
Cool. That sounds kind of ominous.
Yeah, he built this device called the Augmenter.
The augmenter, what does it do?
It's based on some technology.
Okay.
It's called orthothalamic transceiver technology, OTT.
Fancy.
I know, right?
So what does this OTT do?
Basically, it can trigger and control Orr's dreams.
Whoa, so he can manipulate Orr's dreams?
Yeah, by stimulating his brainwaves, it's crazy.
That's pretty intense.
At first, you might think Haber's trying to help or, manage his anxiety about all this.
Right, seems like a logical goal.
But things take a dark turn pretty fast.
How so?
Haber gets this idea that he can use Orr's power to fix the world.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Yeah, according to his own vision, of course.
That never ends well.
You know it doesn't.
Playing God, basically. Exactly, playing God.
It's a classic recipe for disaster.
Right, but we see this happen step by step in the book.
Oh, really? Give me some examples. So, first Orr dreams about this horse mural in Haber's office.
The mural. What's so special about a mural?
It's called Tammany Hall, the painting of a horse.
Okay.
And then, bam, suddenly there's an actual horse standing there in the office.
Wait, what?
Yeah, a real horse.
That's nuts.
It's almost funny, like how ridiculous it is.
Yeah, it's like something out of a cartoon.
Right. But it shows you how powerful this dream stuff is.
It's like raw, unfiltered power.
Totally. And then Orr dreams about less rain in Portland.
Okay, less rain, so...
And guess what? The city gets hit with a drought.
No way. And Haber just happens to get a big promotion because of it.
You got it. See the pattern here?
Haber's using Orr's dreams to get what he wants.
Exactly.
It's pretty messed up.
It is. And it raises all sorts of questions about, even if your intentions are good,
Yeah.
messing with reality like this is super dangerous.
Especially when you're doing it through someone else, like Orr.
Absolutely. And it just gets crazier from there.
Oh, I bet it does.
The changes get bigger and bigger.
Like what?
The Near East War, boom, ends overnight after Orr dreams about it.
Well, that sounds like a good thing, right?
Yeah, on the surface, maybe, but then aliens show up on the moon.
Aliens on the moon. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, things get really weird.
And I bet Orr isn't too happy about it.
He's freaking out. He's completely lost control.
Right. It's not even his subconscious driving these changes anymore. It's Haber's twisted vision.
Exactly. And there are other changes, too, like with the human population.
What do you mean?
Different races start merging together. It's all messed up.
Wow, that's heavy.
People are confused, scared. This lawyer character totally loses it.
It's like everything's falling apart.
Pretty much. And Orr, in this desperate attempt to fix things,
Yeah.
he dreams about just being normal.
Just being normal.
Yeah, but the tragic thing is that dream takes away his ability to dream effectively at all.
Oh no, so he loses his power completely.
Yep, it's like this heartbreaking irony.
It's like he's punished for trying to fix what Haber broke.
And this whole arc, it really makes you think about
Yeah.
what happens when one person tries to control something as big as reality itself.
Right, and the dangers of overriding someone's free will like that.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what even is normal anyway?
Who gets to decide that?
Right. And there's another character I want to mention.
Okay.
Heather Lalache.
Heather Lalache. Who's she?
She's an observer from HQW, like a government agency.
So they're keeping an eye on Haber.
Yeah, at first she's skeptical, like she doesn't believe any of this.
But then she sees it all happening.
Exactly, all the weird changes. And she realizes Orr's power is real.
Wow, so she becomes a witness to all this chaos.
Yeah, and there's this crazy dream sequence with a dried up riverbed and this alien invasion thing.
That's intense.
It's wild. It really shows you just how out of control things have gotten.
All thanks to Haber's ambition.
Totally. But in the end, Orr does find some peace.
No.
After he loses his effective dreaming, things kind of settle down.
Does he stay with Haber?
No, he actually forms a connection with Heather.
Interesting. So he finds solace in human connection.
Yeah, even though the world is completely different now.
It's like a glimmer of hope in all this mess.
I think so. It shows that even when everything's changing,
Yeah.
human connection can still be a constant.
I like that. A bit of optimism.
Right. So the Lathe of Heaven is this exploration of the subconscious
Huh.
and how it can change reality.
Right.
But it's also a warning about the dangers of trying to control something so powerful.
Especially when it involves messing with someone else's mind.
Absolutely. So let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about the Law of One.
The law of one, right?
See what it has to say about reality, the
Yeah.
mind, and, those external influences that might be at play.
On a much grander scale, right?
Exactly, on a cosmic scale.
I love it.
So in Law of One, we meet Ra.
Ra. Who or what is Ra?
It's called the social memory complex.
A social memory complex. That's a mouthful.
I know, right?
What does that even mean?
Basically, it's like a unified consciousness, communicating information about how everything is connected.
Everything is connected, huh?
Yeah, and it all comes from this one infinite creator.
So it's like a divine messenger of sorts.
You could say that, and a core idea in Law of One is this concept of intelligent infinity.
Intelligent infinity. What's that all about?
It's basically the unlimited potential from which all of creation comes.
So the source of everything.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
tied to that is the idea of free will,
Free will. Okay.
which is described as a primal distortion
A distortion? That sounds kind of bad.
I know, but distortion here doesn't really mean something negative.
Oh, okay. So what does it mean then?
It's more like it's the inherent freedom within this one creator
Okay.
to experience itself in all these different individual ways.
So free will is like the key to experiencing creation.
Exactly, and this is a huge difference from Lathe of Heaven.
How so?
In Lathe, Haber's manipulating Orr's mind, taking away his choice.
Right.
But in Law of One, this freedom to choose your own path.
Yeah.
It's like the most important thing.
Interesting contrast.
It's like the universe is governed by non-interference, you know?
like a hands-off approach.
Yeah, everyone's allowed to learn and evolve through their own choices.
Even if those choices lead to, what we might see as bad stuff.
Exactly, even the bad stuff.
Huh. That's a different perspective.
And then Rod talks about these densities of consciousness.
Densities of consciousness. Okay, I'm all ears.
This is where it gets really relevant to us.
How so?
Third density, that's where we're at right now.
Third density, what's that like?
It's all about self-awareness.
Oh, okay.
Developing our mind, body, and spirit.
Makes sense.
And learning through interacting with each other and experiencing all these contrasts in life.
So basically, being human.
Yeah, basically. And according to Law of One, Earth is actually shifting to fourth density right now.
Whoa, hold on. Fourth density, what's that like?
Well, that makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. What does that shift even feel like?
Both individually and as a whole planet, you know?
Yeah. Big question.
It's not like these densities are physical places.
Okay.
It's more like states of awareness,
I see.
different frequencies of vibration, you could say.
So we're vibrating at a third density frequency right now.
Right. And in third density, we're all about separation, feeling like we're separate individuals.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It creates this whole playground for learning through challenges, through relationships, all that.
But fourth density is different.
Yeah, it's about moving towards a greater sense of connection, empathy.
More like a unity consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. Like becoming aware of that interconnectedness.
Interesting.
And then there's this idea of harvest.
Harvest. Like reaping what you sow.
Kind of. It's like a cosmic graduation. Now,
Okay.
you move to higher densities based on, whether we're more service to others
Yeah.
or service to self.
So are we graded on our behavior?
It's not about being good or bad. It's more about the overall direction you're leaning towards.
Interesting. So what determines which way we lean?
Well, that's the whole journey, right? Figuring that out.
Makes sense.
But it's this big cyclical view of how we evolve spiritually.
I'm starting to see how this connects to the Lathe of Heaven.
Oh, yeah? How so?
Well, both of them deal with this idea of choice, of shaping reality.
Yeah, but in very different ways.
Definitely. And then there's this thing about wanderers.
Wanderers? Who are they?
They're beings from sixth density.
Sixth density, wow.
Yeah, pretty advanced.
So what are they doing here in third density?
They've chosen to incarnate here.
Why would they do that?
To be of service.
To help us out.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
What?
They're super vulnerable to negative influences down here.
Oh, because our vibe is so low.
Exactly. It's like they're stepping down into a denser, more chaotic environment.
That makes sense. It's like a huge sacrifice.
And that brings us to the Orion group.
The Orion group. Who are they?
They're like the opposite of the Wanderers.
So they're not here to help?
No, they're a negatively oriented social memory complex.
What's their agenda?
Conquest, basically.
Conquest, like taking over.
Yeah, and they want to harvest negative entities.
Harvest negative entities. That sounds pretty dark.
It is, and they use all sorts of methods.
Like what?
Programming, magical means, it's all pretty intense.
Magical means? What does that even mean?
It's not like waving a wand or anything.
Wow.
It's more about manipulating energy, influencing people on a subtle level.
So it's like a psychic attack.
Yeah, and Law of One talks about how the instrument channeling Ra
Okay.
actually experienced these attacks.
Seriously.
Yeah, physical discomfort, mental distortions, the whole works.
That's crazy. So they can actually harm people.
It's not like physical harm, but it can definitely mess with you.
Wow. So there's these negative forces out there
According to Law of One, yes.
trying to influence us.
In subtle ways, sometimes not so subtle.
And it all ties back to this idea of free will, right?
Exactly. We have the choice to align with those negative influences.
Or resist them.
It's all about choice.
And Law of One also talks about thought forms.
Thought forms, what are those?
They're like these energetic creations
Oh, yeah.
made from our thoughts and beliefs.
So our thoughts have power.
Big time. They can
That-
influence our experiences, even manifest in reality.
Wait, so you're saying our thoughts can create things?
Not necessarily in a literal poof a car appears kind of way,
Okay.
but they can shape our perception, attract certain experiences, even influence events on a subtle level.
That's a lot to take in.
It is, and it even suggests that some UFO sightings,
You mean like close encounter stuff?
yeah, those might be manifestations of these thought forms, either collective or individual.
Wow, so our beliefs about aliens could actually be drawing them to us.
It's a possibility, and it even goes into how to tell the difference between
Okay.
ships from the Confederation, which is the positive group,
Uh-huh.
and ships from the Orion group.
Based on their energy.
Exactly, based on their energetic signature.
That's pretty wild.
It really makes you think about how much power our collective consciousness has.
Right, if our beliefs can shape reality, that's a huge responsibility.
Totally. And then there's all this stuff about chakras.
Chakras, those are the energy centers in our bodies, right?
Yeah, and Law of One goes into how important they are for our mind, body, and spirit.
So keeping them balanced is important.
Very important. It talks about how blockages can affect us physically and emotionally.
And how do we keep them balanced?
Through meditation, energy work, being mindful of our thoughts and actions.
So it's all connected, our inner and outer worlds.
Absolutely. And it even mentions pyramids.
Pyramids, like the ones in Egypt.
Yeah, it describes them as these energy-focusing tools.
Interesting, so they're not just tombs.
Nope, there's more to them than meets the eye, especially the King's Chamber.
What of the King's Chamber?
It's supposed to be used for healing and initiation.
But it's been misused.
Allegedly. Yeah, it's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down.
Maybe another time.
And then we get to the higher self.
The higher self, what's that?
It's like this more evolved version of ourselves, existing in sixth density.
And what does it do?
It helps plan out our life experiences.
So it's like our soul blueprint.
Kind of. It's like this wise, guiding aspect of ourselves.
And we're not aware of it.
Not consciously. There's this veiling process when we enter third density.
What's that?
It basically blocks our memory of our higher self in past lives.
So we can experience this density more fully.
Exactly, without the baggage of knowing everything beforehand.
Interesting. So it's all about the experience.
And then there's this concept of catalyst.
Catalyst, like something that sparks a change.
Yeah, basically all the experiences we have in life.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
All of it. It's all catalysts for our spiritual growth.
And how we interpret those experiences depends on our polarity, right?
Exactly. Whether we're leaning towards service to others or service to self.
It's like the same event can have totally different meanings for different people.
Depending on their perspective, their level of awareness.
It's a pretty intricate system.
It is. Law of One paints this really detailed picture of how consciousness works.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
And it connects back to Lathe of Heaven in some interesting ways.
For sure, like the idea of a higher self planning our experiences, it kind of puts a different spin on the seemingly random events that happen in Orr's reality.
Right. It's like maybe there's a purpose to it all, even if we don't understand it.
Even in the chaos, there's a higher order.
Exactly. So let's try to bring these two stories together.
Okay.
See where they overlap, where they differ.
Sounds good.
Let's start with this idea of the power of the mind.
All right. The power of the mind.
In Lathe of Heaven, or subconscious, can literally change reality.
Right. Like a godlike power.
Exactly. Whereas in Law of One, it's more subtle.
How so?
It doesn't talk about instantly changing physical laws with a thought,
Okay.
but it does emphasize how our thoughts shape our experience,
Yeah, and how our subconscious can influence our physical bodies.
like we saw with the instrument during the channeling.
It's like two sides of the same coin, right?
I think so. Both sources agree that consciousness is a powerful force.
But the way it manifests is different.
Yeah, Guin goes for this direct, almost magical power.
While Law of One presents a more nuanced model, right?
Yeah, with thoughts and energy interacting within this cosmic framework.
A framework that includes free will and these laws of density.
Right, it's not just about raw power, it's about how we use that power.
Within a larger system.
Exactly. And what about external influence?
Okay, external influence. Let's talk about that.
In Lathe, the main influence is Haber, right?
Yeah, he's controlling Orr's mind with the augmenter device.
Very directly, very scientifically.
That's a pretty clear-cut case of manipulation.
Totally. But the Orion group in Law of One is different.
How so?
They're more subtle, using psychic attacks,
Uh-huh.
programming, trying to tempt people towards negativity.
So it's a more insidious kind of influence.
Yeah, and the methods are totally different.
Haber's all up in Orr's head,
Yeah.
literally.
Whereas the Orion group works more from the shadows.
But they can still be pretty direct if they want to be.
Right, but they have to respect free will.
That's a key difference. Haber doesn't care about Orr's free will.
And then there's the Confederation, the good guys.
The good guys, what do they do?
They're all about non-interference.
Really? They don't try to help us at all.
They only help if we ask for it, if we call for them.
That's a huge contrast to Haber's approach.
Yeah, he's all about forcing his vision on the world.
So we have a spectrum of external influences.
From direct manipulation to hands-off observation.
And everything in between.
And then there's this big question of the nature of reality.
Okay, let's get philosophical.
Both Lathe and Law of One challenge our assumptions about what's real.
How so?
In Lathe, reality is literally fluid. It changes with Orr's dreams.
Right, it's like a constantly shifting landscape.
Law of One is a bit more complex.
Okay.
It suggests that reality is shaped by our perception.
Our perception. So how we see things matters.
Big time. And by these energetic influences that are all around us.
So it's not that the rules of reality are changing.
Right.
It's more about how we experience and interpret those rules.
Exactly. And it's all happening within this larger structure of the one creator.
So there's order within the chaos.
Yeah. It's like Lathe is about rewriting the code of reality.
While Law of One is about how the observer renders that code.
It's a great way to put it.
Different perspectives on the same fundamental question.
And then there's the issue of control and free will.
Okay, control versus free will, a classic battle.
In Lathe, Haber's all about control.
He wants to control Orr's dreams to shape the world the way he wants.
Yeah, he thinks he knows best.
Classic God complex.
But Law of One puts free will front and center.
It's like the most important principle in the universe.
Even the Orion group, as messed up as they are,
Yeah.
they have to operate within the boundaries of free will.
They can't just force people to be negative.
Nope, they can influence, tempt, but ultimately the choice is ours.
And the Confederation, they respect that choice completely.
They won't interfere unless we ask them to.
So it's a constant dance between these forces of control and freedom.
And Orr's struggle against Haber, it's all about reclaiming his free will.
Right. His right to choose his own reality, even if it's a messed up one.
There's a powerful statement about the importance of autonomy.
And the dangers of letting someone else control your mind.
Absolutely. So here we are.
Back from our deep dive.
We've explored this dream world of Lathe of Heaven.
And the cosmic framework of Law of One.
What stood out to you the most?
Yeah, what resonated with you from this unusual pairing?
We've seen two very different perspectives on the mind.
On reality, on the forces that shape our lives.
And it all leads to this one big question.
What's that?
If our thoughts and beliefs have the power to shape our experience.
As both these sources suggest, in their own ways.
What responsibility does that put on us?
Right, not just for our own lives, but for the whole world.
And maybe, just maybe, those effective dreams in Lathe of Heaven are a metaphor for the power of our collective consciousness.
Like what Law of One talks about.
Exactly. Maybe it's all pointing to the same truth.
That our minds are more powerful than we realize.
And that we have a responsibility to use that power wisely.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, and that's what we're here for, to spark those thoughts.
To make those connections.
And hopefully inspire you to keep exploring.
Keep questioning. Keep diving deeper.
Because there's always more to discover.
Absolutely. The journey never ends.
And that's the beauty of it all.
It's an amazing universe we live in.
Full of mysteries and possibilities.
And it's up to us to explore it.
To make our own choices.
To shape our own reality.
And who knows what we might find.
The possibilities are endless.
Until next time.
Keep those minds open.
And keep diving deep.
See you on the other side.